Goodness comes and evil goes. Kimungo.
Kimungo Ukombozi, Kimungo Ukombozi, Kimungo Ukombozi, divine liberty, divine liberation, divine freedom, and all that will bring for African people wherever we happen to be on the face of this earth. Karibu and welcome. My name is Kwende, and today we're going to be discussing the very important subject of the living spiritual and cultural core. The living spiritual and cultural core. Now, for a basic background into what is going to be forthcoming in this video, it's worthwhile checking out the previous videos entitled Living African Spirituality and Living African Culture. Those will introduce some of the key ideas and to highlight some of the very important things that are at the backdrop of what we're going to discuss here now. Now, as was alluded to in those particular videos previously, spirituality and culture are not distinct. They hold and share a oneness of fabric, and absolutely and rightly so. And in that spiritual and cultural oneness that is lived, we can express it that way by saying spiritual cultural core. The core aspect, the core element, the core substance of African living, of African life. That spiritual and that cultural mixture, that spiritual and cultural compound. So the spiritual and cultural core then, the spiritual and cultural compound of life, if you will, the substance of life, is a shared substance of oneness. Spirituality and cultural fabric, all interwoven, all intertwined to make that core real. And the reason why that's important is because with that core intact, providing the nutritious energies for life, the guidance for life to be expressed in its fullest form, all the other avenues of life's expression become informed, become energized by that core. So it's key to have that core intact, maintained, developed, and integrity filled so that African people can express life to the full in all the various avenues throughout the panorama of, or sphere, if you will, of the totality of life's expression. So if we were to group activities in subject areas, for example, for argument's sake, or for illustrative purposes, and we say, okay, I'm involved in an economic endeavor, or I'm involved in self-governance, often misnomered as being politics, or I'm involved in media, or I'm involved in education, or whatever avenue of life's expression that is engaged in, the spiritual and cultural core drives that, enlivens that, makes it real for African people then to live life accordingly in a self-determined and self-beneficial way. So life's expressions and the avenues of life's expressions become serviced by that integrity-filled spiritual and cultural core. And that has been with Africans from time immemorial. It is only in recent times, recent centuries, that we see the most horrific disruptions of that. But in the long journey, all the way from the inception of humanity, which African people are at the primary position of, until the disruptive state, you see that the spiritual and cultural core aspect or element or substance of life is very much intact. And what then transpires through the journeying of African life are the grandest, most magnificent, most beautiful nations and civilizations that the world has ever come to know. The spiritual and cultural blend is vital, is crucial, is essential to African life, for Africans to fully flourish. It is essential, it is vital substance, and it is to be lived. Whatever the facet of life's expression, that core missing means that it becomes unrooted. It is dislocated. So having a spiritual and cultural core to life is vital. That self-created core, that self-realized core, self-generated core that energizes and provides the power source for the various avenues of life's expression. The expression itself is not the same as the core. The expression itself is not a replacement, whichever the avenue is, of the core. So governance or politics is not a substitute or replacement for the core that would naturally drive it. The arts, the creative arts, whichever one it happens to be, is not a substitute or the same as that energy core that drives it. Same with education. The process of learning, the expression of education, the expression of learning is not a substitute for the core that energizes and drives it. So the core to African life is fundamental to African life. And it's holistic. Spiritual and cultural oneness of being. Surely food for thought. Spiritual and cultural fabric is the combination, the combined powerful essence of what is culture and what is spirituality interwoven, interconnected, intertwined, made at one for wholesome and harmonious African living that's consistent, that is void of or repels contradiction, fragmentation. African life is at its best when it is lived the African way. That spiritual and cultural core is the African way. That combination, that synthesis allows the African to elevate to the highest of heights so that African life can be lived to the full. The spirit people must have their spirituality. This most cultured people must have their culture. The spiritual and cultural core living is that oneness that energizes the soul. It has done so from time immemorial, will continue to do so in the now, and will propel the African into ascension for the generations yet to come. So with that, consider spirituality and culture in oneness. Let that resonate in the mind's eye and in the heart and soul of the African self until such time again. Kimunga Ukumbozi, Kimunga Ukumbozi, Kimunga Ukumbozi. Divine liberty, divine liberation, divine freedom, and all that that will bring for African people wherever we happen to be on the face of this earth.